Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Discovery webinar for the new Emotional Regulation module in the Anger Management series. My name is Natalie. I am going to walk you through some of the key elements of the new module, followed by a demo. The Hub Discovery webinars are a great way to learn more about our newest modules and how to best facilitate them. So make sure you're keeping an eye out in our Hub newsletter and on the professional development portal on the Hub platform. In this module, participants build emotional resilience by exploring helpful emotional and physical regulation strategies to regulate anger, aggression, and other difficult emotions with the goal of avoiding harmful and aggressive behavior towards themselves and others. Participants reflect on which techniques work best for them and decide which to incorporate when experiencing intense emotions. Throughout the module, participants will learn how emotional regulation leads to emotional resilience, explore their harmful and helpful emotional regulation actions and behaviors to better understand the way they respond to difficult situations. We'll introduce the opposite action strategy for shifting harmful actions and behaviors associated with anger and difficult emotions into more helpful actions. We'll practice the STOP strategy for regulating out of control anger and difficult emotions to avoid regrettable words or behavior. They'll reflect on which emotional regulation strategies work for them and how they can use them when having difficulty regulating intense emotions, anger, and aggression. And finally, we practice emotional regulation strategies at home using the Difficult Emotions Weekly Log. Participants use skills including emotional awareness, self-empathy, interpersonal safety, cognitive restructuring, emotional regulation, distress tolerance, self-awareness, mindful approaches, and violence prevention. Some of the key elements that we use in the Hub curriculum design include things like activities, mindfulness practices, journaling, quotes, and dialogue prompts. And I will show what these look like in the module demo. This module is located in the Youth Learning Portal in the Anger Management theme. And as always, with every Hub module, you are given some facilitation resources, including the facilitator guide and the journal. And if you are a seasoned Hub user, then I'm sure you have used the journal and the guide many times. So feel free to fast forward the recording if you already know about it. But otherwise, I am happy to give you an overview on what these resources are. So as you can see here on the Hub platform, each module is located on its very own card that provides a synopsis of the module itself. You're also given resources like the journal and the guide. Let's begin with the guide. So if you select that button, a PDF will open up in a new tab for you. Now, using the guide is a dependable way to provide a meaningful and interactive experience with your client, and it will ensure that everything that needs to be delivered in the module, like all of the content and all of the activities, are being expressed, and to make you feel supported as well. It'll give you a guide on how to do certain techniques and activities. So we start with some background information on what the purpose of the module is. I feel like this is a very important thing for you to know as a facilitator. And you'll also learn about the goals, topics, and skills that are going to be used throughout the program. And all of this is just background information on the module. You don't have to share this with your participants. This is just for you so that you have an overall idea of the module itself. We also have a script which allows you to follow along with what the participants are seeing on their screens, and you can read aloud the content that needs to be delivered on each page. The content that is in the guide, so the part that you see under the script section, this is just some additional information that pairs well with the content that is on the screen. You're also given instructions on what to do next, like going to the next page or having a discussion with the participants. And with the discussion, you are also given examples of those as well, although you're totally welcome to come up with your own discussion questions as you see fit. At the end of each facilitator guide, you're also given a list of resources that are available for yourself or your clients that provide additional information and resource links for your clients. So on the module card, you also have access to the journal. So if we press the journal button, that also opens up in a PDF. And it's very important that each of your participants have a copy of their own journal before beginning the module, because this is where they will be writing answers to the reflection questions that are shown throughout the program. So you can choose if you would like to have your participants have a printed copy. If you're doing in-person programming, this might be ideal. Otherwise, if you're doing online programming, you can invite participants to enter in any text in the fillable fields provided. Let's dive into the module demo. So on this page, it is the very first page that will open up, and the facilitator guide welcomes everyone to the program, regardless of where everyone may be in their emotional wellness journey. There is something for everyone to learn here. The module is designed with compassionate and trauma-informed language and considers that emotions can be difficult for some people. And so the guide prompts the facilitator to share that participants don't have to engage in anything that makes them uncomfortable. That said, this is a very safe space to learn about themselves and to explore their emotions. We will provide a topics overview with your participants. And the following pages give you the opportunity to get to know everyone a little better by a quick check-in question where everyone can go around the room and share one way they cool down after feeling really angry or becoming aggressive. And then we also have a space to share our rules of engagement, which are basically some ground rules that you as a group will set for how you want the space to look during the session. So for example, this might be something like, don't judge others, and one person speaks at a time. However, if participants are having trouble coming up with some, then you are welcome to write your own rules down, but you can also press the light bulb icon button here and you're given a list of suggestions. So I recommend reading these suggestions out to everyone and having everyone pick what their favorite one is and then writing it in the space provided. This is where we're introduced to the journal as an opportunity for personal self-reflection. And you can invite participants to turn to their journal and reflect on the provided questions in any way that suits them best. So this could be writing, drawing, or even just sharing out loud if that's what they prefer to do. But here we just have them thinking a little bit deeper about how they currently respond to anger, by identifying what body sensations they might feel when they have an intense emotion, and also having them reflect on how emotional regulation techniques could benefit their life. Before we explore strategies, let's reflect on some of the helpful and harmful emotional regulation actions and behaviors that we use to cope with intense emotions. So, this is where we're going to be facilitating a reflection activity for participants to understand the difference between healthy emotional coping mechanisms and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And before we dive into this activity, the facilitator guide will let participants know that it will be briefly discussing topics like self-harm or substance use. And if those topics are difficult for people to reflect on, that's totally understandable. You can go ahead and skip this page. We won't be getting into those topics in a lot of detail, but we do just want participants to reflect on some of the things that they might be doing that are healthy and unhealthy. And we can do that by clicking on these buttons here and reading over some examples of healthy coping strategies. For example, talking and venting with friends, or writing in a journal, or making art, singing, or songwriting. Some examples of harmful behaviors and coping mechanisms include verbal abuse, like swearing, substance use, self-injury or self-harm, or physical abuse. Now we invite them to share one or more examples of what they do to cope that is healthy and unhealthy. Again, if they'd rather not get into this, you can skip this page. Otherwise, you can write their answers in the input boxes provided. And I always share with facilitators a little tip. If you have participants that don't engage or provide answers to the reflections, you're welcome to use a couple examples from your own life, or even some general examples, just so participants can get an idea of the content. It's also important that the facilitator make people feel safe during the sessions, and this is a good time to express that there's no shame in unhealthy coping mechanisms that they may use. Rather, we're just trying to learn more about ourselves, and there's no judgment in this space. Here is one of the strategies that participants might be interested in learning for their own emotional regulation, called the opposite action strategy, which is basically an attempt to avoid harmful behaviors that reinforce out of control emotions, anger, and aggression by doing the opposite. And I'll share this information from the facilitator guide. Our emotional reactions to a situation are influenced by what's going on in our brains and in our bodies. That means our emotional responses are a part of our biology. We also have a choice over how we act in response to our emotions. We can choose to act in a way that is opposite to our emotional reaction, and this is what we do with the opposite action strategy. As a group, you can come up with some examples of the opposite action strategy. The facilitator guide also provides examples in case anyone gets stuck. So each title in the chart is a button that will give you instructions on what to enter for each section of the chart. And you can type in the responses below. So that's just one example from the facilitator guide. Another emotional regulation technique that we go over is called stop signs. And essentially, STOP is an acronym that are the steps to take in a moment of emotional intensity. S means stop. So stop what you're doing and take a pause. T is take a few deep breaths. Notice yourself breathing in and breathing out. Notice your feet on the ground. O is observe. What are you thinking? What emotions are you feeling? What emotions are in your body and what triggered these emotions? P is for practice what works. Proceed with something that will help you in the present moment. What do you think would help you calm down? What is the best thing for you to do right now to manage your anger? We can reflect further on the strategy by listening to a mindfulness recording on the STOP strategy. Invite participants to sit in a comfortable seat, whether it be in their chairs or cross-legged on the floor. You can click on the Start Mindfulness Practice, and if you want to share a little bit more information, you can select why this works. So when we ground our bodies and minds in the present, I'll share a couple minutes of what the meditation looks like.
This mindfulness practice is called STOP. STOP is an acronym. S-T-O-P. It allows you to remember to be mindful throughout the day, which can be hard sometimes. But luckily, we can use the STOP technique as a reminder. The S stands for stop, and this means stop what you're doing. Take a pause. The T stands for take. It means take a few deep breaths in and out. The O stands for observe, and this means observe how you feel in the present moment. The P stands for proceed. It means proceed with something that will support you in the present moment.
One more of the emotional regulation techniques that I will share in the webinar today is the mindful movement practice. This practice can help you regulate your emotions and bring you back into your window of tolerance so that you can respond to a difficult or triggering situation in a healthier way. I'll share what this mindful movement practice looks like.
Welcome to the mindful movement practice for self-care. To begin, come to a standing pose, feeling the soles of the feet connected to the earth and the spine drawing tall and strong from the tailbone to the crown of the head, allowing the arms to rest gently by the sides of the body with the palms of the hands and the fingertips relaxed. Now bringing your attention to the breath, noticing the breath moving in and out of the body. Now let's try raising our arms by our sides. With an inhale, begin to draw both arms out by the sides, connecting the palms of the hands at the top of the head, and exhale, lowering the arms back down.
In the facilitator guide, we share that with any emotional regulation technique, it's important to note that it will take some practice to manage your distress levels in moments of vulnerability or high intensity. With practice, it will be easier to maintain composure under pressure, but it's important to have self-compassion while you're learning. The facilitator guide provides some in-depth instructions and explanations for the take-home practice, which is a emotional intensity tracker that participants will complete throughout the week. This assignment allows participants to identify what emotion they're going through, what triggered that emotion, how intense the emotion is out of 10, and then we invite them to try one of the emotional regulation techniques shared in today's module. After they complete that technique, they can write down how intense their emotion is after completing out of 10. And this way, they can have a log for what emotional regulation techniques work best for them. We conclude the module by inviting everyone to share one strategy or breathing exercise that they think will work for them and how they can practice it over the next week. Thank you so much for joining me today, and please let me know if you have any questions or feedback for this module.